Welcome to Beardy, Bruce Lee Central.
Hey everybody, it's Beardy here. What's going on, guys? Okay, so this interview here was thought to be lost forever until I found it in a beta tape in my archive, and I've completely restored the audio and the video. And there's been rumors going on for years that this tape existed somewhere, where Joe Louis basically reveals everything, reveals all the secrets that him and Bruce Lee had when they trained, Bruce Lee's own techniques, philosophy, etc., etc. Everything Bruce Lee taught him, okay? And this is that tape. He even talks about their fight, their crazy fight. So here we go, guys. Enjoy.
Hello, I'm Joe Louis. I'd like to talk with you just a little bit about my relationship with Bruce Lee, where we met, what took place in our workouts, what was it like to work with Mr. Bruce Lee. Now, very important in working with Bruce Lee is this, his philosophy. Most martial artists do not have a philosophy of training, a philosophy about their techniques, or what we call a strategic philosophy. Why is that important into going into a fight? I was basically taught this implicitly working with Mr. Bruce Lee. When you get ready to go into a fight, one of the most important things is to begin a fight, you need good technique. Good technique will help you to start a fight. Number two, you need guts. You need that physical conditioning to be able to hang in there, to stay in there. So that's the second factor. And this is the third factor which I got working with Mr. Bruce Lee. And we don't see it a lot in a number of other martial arts styles. Number three, you need heart. The most important thing about a fight is not winning and losing, but being able to finish the fight. And to be able to finish the fight, you need that spiritual philosophy, like the one I was taught in Okinawa. Never quit. Be first, be quick, and don't stop. Most people aren't able to finish the fight because they lack heart. So whenever you make a movement, like some of the moves you're going to be seeing on this tape, like the lead hand punch, the lead leg side kick, Bruce Lee always taught me, always put your heart into it. Now going back to the original point here, philosophy. Philosophy was a very imperative part of what Bruce Lee was teaching me. Now I made some brief notes here because over the years a number of people have been asking me many different questions about Mr. Bruce Lee and the Jeet Kune Do style. He was a principle-centered person. That means when he taught me to throw punches, taught me to throw kicks, don't throw blanks. Put some emotion into it. Put some feeling into it. And that's one reason why a number of people quit the martial arts or fade out or get out of shape. Because they don't really get in touch with their emotional self when they're out there executing techniques, executing punches. For example, when you throw a punch, like the forehand strike Bruce Lee showed me. First time you throw that punch, you throw it real fast. Just let your opponent know, hey, I'm fast. Next time you come back to fire that punch, boom, you throw it exceptionally fast. Just let the man know, hey, I can hit you. Next time you come back, pow, you hit him again. Boom, double up on him. Let him know, hey, not only can I hit you, but I can hit you twice. Next time you start putting a real intent onto it. So not only are you letting your opponent know, hey, I can hit you, boom, but I can also blister you. Boom, I can hurt you. So you learn to communicate with your opponent with these punches and these kicks. And that was a very integral part of this whole Jeet Kune Do system. Your emotional gratification as you're working out, as you're executing your punches and kicks. Without this, Jeet Kune Do, I don't think, would work. So Bruce Lee had a way of igniting that emotional gratification within me. And I would usually say something like what we call the power of a principle-centered fighter. And listen to what I'm saying. What do you call the power of a principle-centered fighter? Basically, that is the overall general theme which permeates the entire Jeet Kune Do system. In a way, what Bruce Lee was showing us was basically organized common sense. Now, the key to Bruce Lee's system is there was a strong network of philosophy interwoven in the basic structure of what Bruce Lee was all about and what Jeet Kune Do was all about. In other words, most styles lack this basic innate structure. Now, over the years, as I was working with Bruce Lee, I was able to gradually integrate what he was teaching me and come up with my own basic philosophy, as I'll be talking about some of this as we go on with the tape. Let me go back and brief you a little bit about the first time I met Bruce Lee. I was over at Black Belt Magazine back in the 60s. Matter of fact, the year was 1967. I had just come out of Black Belt Magazine over in Washington Boulevard, and Bruce Lee was in there doing something. He came outside and confronted me in the parking lot, and I didn't know who he was because I never watched Green Hornet series. And he came up and he started talking to me about Jeet Kune Do, some of the Wing Chun movements, some of the sticky hand techniques, why in his style, unlike most traditional martial artists, they stand with their power side back to the rear. He would take the power side, which in my case would be my right side, and show me why you should put the right side forward. And I got a little confused here because back in those days, I didn't have a lot of respect for little guys. And if you were under 5'8", in my book, you were little, and if you were under 150 pounds, in my book, you were little. Plus, most of the Chinese styles weren't into fighting, weren't into the combat aspect of it, like the Muay Thai fighters or the point fighters of today. And I just had sort of a recalcitrant attitude. At that time, I didn't really respect authority and had sort of an ambivalent feeling about the wushu types of fighting, such as what Bruce Lee, in my eye, had come from. So I got sort of turned off to him initially. The next time he and I met was in the Mayflower Hotel up in Washington, D.C. Mr. Jun Rhee, who was the promoter in the United States National Championships in those days, invited me, Robert Culp, and Bruce Lee to be the special guest. I was the defending champion of the United States National Championships that year, to participate as guest at the 1967 championships. At the Mayflower Hotel, Bruce Lee came up to me in the lobby, introduced himself. Again, I didn't know who he was, but he was very cordial, very nice, always dressed exceptionally well, and a very friendly person. And at that time, I started to take a little more of a liking to him. My partner at that time was Mr. Bob Wall, who a lot of you know from the Enter the Dragon film. And Bob and I talked about him a little bit at that time. Later on, Mr. Bob Wall, myself, and the first superstar in the martial arts, Mr. Mike Stone, put together a nightclub act. This was in later 1967. And as we were going around to different nightclubs, at the end of these nightclub acts that Mr. Wall and Mike Stone and I would be into, we would go outside and we would start talking about different things. And Mike Stone started talking to me about this exceptional martial artist named Bruce Lee and how exceptional these new movements he was teaching Mike were working for him. And so Mike Stone was really the one who convinced me that I should reconsider Bruce Lee's approach to me, because Bruce Lee came to me and asked me to allow him to teach me. At that time, I was already an amateur world champion. I was the United States national champion. I was on my way to becoming a three-time international champion. And so I got back in touch with Mr. Lee, and we started working together. I worked with him about once a week. I would go over to his house, and this is how it was. He lived in Culver City. I'd knock on the door, he'd be waiting for me. I was usually a little late, and he'd get on my case about being late a little bit. And we'd go inside, and one of the first things he would do is he would show me his form. He always worked on his form, and he was really impressed with my muscles, so he's always trying to show me how strong his form. He'd tell me to feel his form. Then he'd pull up his shirt, and he'd show me his midsection and say, feel my stomach and stomach muscles, and he was very impressed with the fact he was trying to develop a little six-pack down there. Six-pack's where you see the three different rolls of muscles, three on each side. And then he always had some new kick that he was working on. So he would lift his leg out and he'd fire a side kick or something. He'd hold his leg out and he'd say, okay, Mr. Lewis, what do you think? What do you think? Like a little kid. He's very charming, very intelligent, very creative. Then we'd go through the workout and the kendo gloves. And Bruce Lee had me fire a forward-hand strike at him. So I fired it at him. He sort of slipped off the side, but I was getting pretty quick in those days. Then he asked me to fire it again. I fired again. His timing wasn't quite there yet. Then the third time I fired it, he slipped to the side and came back with a triple counterpunch. Pow, pow, pow. Kind of smiled, took his helmet off. We would do drills where we would square off in front of each other. I'd fire a side kick at him, he'd fire a side kick back at me, back forth, working on different types of either timing, distancing drills, or bridging the gap drills, or what have you.